Season 6 Q&A show live from Tiger Studios at Port 164 in Oklahoma City.
Wow, good job. Way to kick it off. You look a little different since the last time everyone saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah? I mean, I get to see you every day, but I think since last season, you've definitely grown up a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
So what's new in your life?
Stuff. I don't know what to say.
Yeah?
I mean, since last season, what did I can't piece together where I started from then.
Sure. Well, a lot's happened, actually. So we've got a lot of new viewers. Obviously, one of the first things as far as the OKCOwlCam's concerned is we kind of have a new home to broadcast from, right?
Oh, yeah.
In two senses. Number one, we're on YouTube for the first time ever.
Yep.
And number two, here we are in kind of a little bit more room to breathe than last year.
Definitely.
Yeah, so tell them about this.
So this is, Tiger Studios. We actually have an actual studio in my dad's, warehouse / office spacing. So, that's pretty cool. So, right here's, the garage door. So, and this is, our little studio space. And we got these mics. Dope.
So some industrial space that we office out of that had some spare room that we could do something a little more special. You know, if you remember, the Q&A show is kind of something we started kind of off the cuff. I mean, it was something we talked about. Hey, we're getting a lot of questions and we don't have time to produce videos to answer them. What if we just did like a 30-minute show and we did it from the control room of the house, the control room being where everything's controlled for the live stream. And it was tight quarters, but we made it work. But it turned out to be, I think, for many people, one of their favorite things about the OKCOwlCam.
Of course, me too. I look forward to it every week. Last week it was on Mondays, but yeah. So.
Well, I tell you what, it's time I look forward to with you because it's good conversation. We get to focus on one of the things that we both love, which is this crazy little corner of our life known as the OKCOwlCam, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So before we get further into that. We have so many people who help us out with this operation, right? Right here with us is Steve Johnson, our good friend. He's involved in a local news channel here. He's been a part of the OKCOwlCam for several years. I've known him for years long before that started. But he's here in studio with us helping us run the technology, so we appreciate that. He may chime in from time to time to make us aware of things or even to just interject some memories or conversation. So we'll look.
In chat, he's known as Steve KFOR.
Is that right, Steve?
KFOR.
Steve J. KFOR.
Steve J. KFOR.
Yep,
so he's in there right now, but he's probably not chatting too much.
Hi, Mom.
There's Mom. Of course, we have the moderators who have stuck with us through thick and thin in many cases. This year, their big uphill battle to start off with is making the transition from Ustream chat to YouTube chat. And, for those who just watch the show, they probably don't. I mean, if they haven't been involved with chat or haven't participated in chat, they probably are unaware of what kind of community really exists behind this whole thing. So talk about that.
As in, the chat community?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, obviously, the chat is a huge part of, what the OKCOwlCam is. As, honestly, I'm not even sure if we would be doing, the Q&A if we didn't have chat, because we do answer questions from chat, and we've all just formed this bond. Just looking through all of the chat, I just see all these names that the people that I've known from our chat for years, and it's just a way to kind of just get to talk with obviously other people who enjoy watching the OKCOwlCam, and you make friends, and then so that's
right. I've been surprised at how many new friends we've made that otherwise we wouldn't have had. Like you said, conversations take place and we get to know each other through conversations, and as those conversations deepen through chat and sometimes even outside of chat, once those connections are made, we get to learn about people. We get to hear their stories, they get to hear our stories and get to know us, and I just feel like we've gained so many friends through this experience. And I think those who've been involved in chat would, for more than a season at least, would say definitely the same. I know I know of so many stories of people who have connected and stayed in contact with each other in the off season.
Definitely.
Some who've even gotten together offline in person, if they're in town, or And of course, that's been true for us. I mean, we've gotten to meet several people, and you even from time to time and out in public. What's the big question you get asked all the time?
I'll be random places such as the mall or a Mexican restaurant called Abuelos. Are you the owl girl? And I'm like, yep.
Yeah, you even got it at a pro baseball game one time. So,
yeah.
One of the vendors was like, "Hey, aren't you the owl girl?"
Yeah. There have been a few times where I've been doing something a little goofy, and then I have someone go like, "Are you the owl girl?" And I'm like, that's me.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so we have I would say we've got a number of new viewers this year who probably don't know the story behind the OKCOwlCam. So let's take a step back before we kind of dive into season 6 and what's happened and what hasn't happened yet. We're going to get to both of those conversations. Let's talk about and kind of fill people in on how this whole thing got started.
All right. So when I was 5, I was in bed. I heard obviously a hooting sound from outside of my window, and I was 5 years old. I didn't know Oklahoma had owls, and I was like, I hear them. I tell my dad, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's owls outside. He didn't believe me, but then we went upstairs and he saw them, and so that was Mr. Tiger and Mrs. Tiger.
Yeah. So pause right there. So, as your father, I remember it with a little bit more perspective.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
I didn't want to take it too long.
Sure. You were so imaginative. I mean, you still are, but you were extraordinarily imaginative as a little girl, and you had this, you had a real, genuine interest and fascination with animals.
Oh yeah, I was.
So your mom and I, often thought when you would tell us, "Hey, the owls visited me last night," and we just kind of thought you were, being imaginative and maybe embellishing on something that you heard outside, which we had never heard owls. We didn't know that, our house was right in the middle of a territory of a family of owls. But then one night you come and look down over the banister, and while Mom and I are watching TV, and you're like, "Dad, you got to come see them. They're here right now." And I'm like, sort of to just placate you, I was like, "Okay, I'll come up and look at this since, I'm awake, and it's the time you say they're here." So sure enough, whenever I'll never forget the looking eye to eye with an owl, with Mr. Tiger. I believe it was Mr. Tiger. His face 18 inches from mine with only a pane of glass between us, and then looking at you and just the smile and the adventure on your face whenever I finally believed you that was the case, right? Yeah. So all right, so fast forward, what happened next?
So obviously, the first 2 years, Mrs. Tiger laid her clutch of eggs, and because she was immature as a young owl, she was immature, so she didn't sit on them and they didn't hatch. But on the 3rd year,
which is not unlike maybe what's been happening last year in this season so far. Yeah.
And so from then on, we had 4 seasons with Mrs. Tiger. Unfortunately, after then, right before the start of season 5, she got shot and killed. But on the bright side of that, Mr. Tiger, the male owl, he found a new mate now, Altera, who kept the obviously OKCOwlCam going with last year's season 5. She laid a total of 4 eggs, abandoned those, and then laid another pair, which she sat on and eventually hatched into the owlets of season 5. And this season, season 6, she's so far laid 2 eggs, but has not sat on them. And I think we're all hoping, and most likely she's going to lay, more eggs.
So we'll get to that here in a little bit, and I'm sure people have some questions. But I want to talk about how the cam became the cam, though, because we really didn't talk about the technology yet.
Oh yeah.
So
it's more of a...
whenever that first set of eggs were laid by Mrs. Tiger, you were young and very interested, but we didn't know whether or not we could really count on the fact that you might go up there and scare her off often. And we didn't want that to happen. So, given my liking for technology and gadgets, I happened to have some spare equipment around, an extra computer, and it was back before you had cameras embedded in really thin pieces of glass on a phone or on a laptop. I had an old Apple EyeSight camera that, if you remember, I attached to Papa Bear's telescope. But we still have the telescope, but I used that telescope to kind of help aim the camera down
inside of the house
so that you could watch it downstairs. But in order to get the video to that other computer, I had to find a way to do that. And Ustream at the time was this emerging site. It was fairly new. and it was a site where I could stream it to, but anybody could watch it. And I mean, I didn't really care that anybody could watch it. I didn't think anybody would watch it. But, lo and behold, here we are, seasons later with, countless views.
Show.
Yeah. So it's been an absolute blast kind of watching you grow up as the spokesperson of this whole thing. So, or the spokeswoman, I should say.
Spokeswoman.
Yes. So, all right. Okay, so here we are, start of season 6. We've talked about Mr. Tiger, who's been with us all along. We estimate he's probably pushing at least a decade old by now.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Altera, who is the new mother, who is the new mate, was estimated, I believe, by one of our consultants last year who knows these things, that she was about a year of age last year. So she's still young, still maturing, probably still has some things to learn as it relates to just instinct and I almost said child rearing, but that's not what we're talking about here. Maybe brooding, if that's the right term. What are some other characters in this whole thing? We have Mr. Tiger, Mrs. Tiger, Altera.
Yeah.
We have kind of the world famous nest pot.
Oh yeah.
There's been one that they tend to always come back to, and we're going to talk about that some more in a bit. And then, of course, there's the beloved yucca, which historically, the baby owls each season tend to make that their jungle gym.
They shred that.
So talk about this yucca plant. What?
Well, obviously it's part of our exterior decorations because, obviously, you do an amazing job just making sure our house looks good on the outside and on the inside. So we have in those planter boxes different plants, and so that's a yucca root plant. And every year, obviously, we have to replace them because the owlets tear them apart. But this year, we actually have one that's named Lazarus.
Because it's the first time I didn't replace it.
Yeah, because it stuck with us from last season to right now.
Yeah, it actually really made a big comeback over the summer and the fall, and is really probably the best it's ever looked. Right on time, hopefully, to be trampled once again. But given that it came back to life, we've lovingly named it Lazarus. So yes. The yucca has always been a fun topic of conversation among chatters and viewers. The latter part of the season, once the owls start to trample it.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's apropos that we have a name for it now. It's something that we can refer to, because it's just kind of been. It's something that's in the view, 24/7 for weeks on end as these little owls grow up, right?
Yes.
So I recently I made some adjustments to the cameras, and what happened?
So he was adjusting the camera, and one of Lazarus's leaves started to get in the way, so unfortunately we had to trim them. So just a moment of silence for fallen leaf. Right. Okay.
So it's interesting how many people I'm sure would probably want this leaf.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we could arrange that. Find a way to arrange that.
Send someone.
So Mrs. Tiger, a beloved part of the history of the OKCOwlCam.
Yeah.
No longer with us, at least in life, but we've got a little bit of memory of her right here. And
yes, this is her eyeball.
Her beautiful eyeball. This is a piece. This is actually from a screen capture I did once when it was one of my favorite moments when she's kind of just, it was a pre-nesting time. I don't even think in fact, I'm certain we weren't live yet.
Yeah. But
I had the camera set up so that we could monitor them, internally just to kind of see what was going on and keep tabs on when we might have some eggs laid. And there was one night I happened to be on the computer, and she really, I don't remember a time when this was ever done quite the way she did it but she very curiously came up to the camera and was like looking at it and kind of gave me the eye, and I happened to just get a screen grab of it because the lighting was just right.
Yeah.
The focus, the way the camera just adapted to how close she was, and I captured this screenshot, and I thought at least for our episode 1, it would make a great backdrop for our new set here at the studio, aptly named Tiger Studios, like you said and like you thought of. So maybe we'll find a way that a viewer can can obtain this somehow. I don't know.
Possibly.
Maybe, we've done fundraisers in the past. You've raised, I believe, somewhere
Around
30,000,
yeah,
maybe more.
almost 30,000.
In the past, upwards of $30,000 for various organizations and charities. So I'm sure we'll come up with something this season, and who knows, maybe that can be a piece that we auction off and take proceeds towards chosen charities.
Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
Chatters, talk that up, and if that seems to be an idea you like, perhaps we'll pursue that. And who knows, maybe every episode we can have something different if it proves worthy of the effort. And we've got chat here within our view. So I don't see any immediate questions, but I think now would be a good time maybe to take one or two, right?
Yeah, there were a few earlier.
Okay.
So, like we did last year. Like last year was almost solely just answering questions.
Right.
But
right.
So any questions you guys have, we can answer them right now live. So.
Yeah. So we're probably on about a 5-second to 10-second delay from the time of we hope. Okay. So here's a good question. Wendy Woot wants to know if an abandoned owl is available. Will the clicks help the Tigers adopt again this year? You start this off. I've got some thoughts, but I want to see what you say.
So of course, like last year we had Principio, and assuming he was adopted. But I think this year, if there is an abandoned owl, that as long as Altera's cool with it, that we'd be willing to put it in the nest if they're the same age as our owlets that we're hopefully getting this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were a number of conditions really that made it perfect for last year.
Yeah.
Totally aside from the fact that it was a beautiful story that paralleled really what was going on privately in our life.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And many who watched last year and who've seen the news stories know that story. But we would never wish for a baby owl, to not get to grow up with its mother and father and siblings. So qualifying the answer with that, at least, I'm with you. I think if Mr. Tiger was proving to be delivering, being able to hunt adequately, deliver an adequate food supply, as one of the things that we considered last year with our expert help that we are able to reach out to when we have a time of need, everyone agreed that Mr. Tiger had proven himself to be able to perform and he's done it before. They've had he and Mrs. Tiger have had 3 owlets in one season. So he had proven that he could do the job. The timing was just right. I think within a few days, Rondi from Wildcare, Oklahoma, kind of had a general idea that the ages of the owlets were about the same. So it really worked well. If we were fortunate enough to be able to accommodate a baby owl, I'd say in a heartbeat we'd do it, right?
Yeah, that would be
made for a great story. So, did you see any other questions that you want to?
I'm reading them right now.
Okay, so look at Janann Fletcher there. I think everyone wants to know, where are the owls, and why do you think they haven't been back to the nest since Mr. T visited a few days ago? I have some hard data to answer this question, but you go. Why don't you start with your theory?
So we don't exactly know where the owls are. Also, we don't know, where they go during the off season and where Mr. Tiger just hangs out when he's not at the nest. But see, what was the other question? Why? I just forgot.
Where are they, and why haven't they been back?
I mean, obviously, how Altera has kind of proved that she, will lay the eggs and then abandon those and lay more. Like, obviously, she's young. Like, she still
wants to go out and party.
Oh yeah, she's still got to go and get turned up.
Yeah. Whatever that means. So here's the thing. You know me, I'm very data driven, right? When we have good data, we have a good opportunity to make a good decision or to make a good conclusion. So anybody who's watched the stream knows that we track a lot of information about these owls, and you'll see it scrolling across the stream, and then as the stream progresses, you'll see even more data available. So we obviously have a lot of historical context that we can consider.
Yes.
And so with the help of the moderators, whom we lovingly call who? What do we call them?
Our Modly crew.
The Modly crew, with a D, not a T. So we maintain some behind-the-scenes information that Steve's going to pull up here in a second. This is kind of our offspring tracking spreadsheet, if you will, if there's ever been such a nerdy thing, right? So whenever we have this data that we can go back and look at, it really can help bring some sense to the current based on the past.
Yeah.
So right here is a spreadsheet of all of the past eggs. Now, we refer to the eggs before they're named. We refer to them as E for egg. In the case of 1.1, it would be season 1, egg 1, chronologically. So like E6.1 is the first egg of season 6. Okay, but where the first 2 eggs really become relevant from a tracking standpoint is if we look back a year ago, and we look at E5.1 and E5.2. Well, 2 eggs were laid, one on the 3rd of January, one on the 5th. Okay, many know the story on that those eggs were abandoned. Not all that unlike what we've seen behaviorally right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so a week after that, January 11th, E5.3 was laid. Yeah. January 13th, E5.4 was laid. So roughly a week later, she came back and laid 2 more eggs. Well, if anybody's seen the video of the time-lapse video of her getting covered in snow, and then we had an ice storm, she hung in there for a while, but she bailed.
Oh, yeah.
Understandably so. And those eggs froze and ruptured. So one would have thought, she made 2 efforts, we're probably done for the season. What's up?
Nindy and Jana.
Yeah.
What's up, girlfriends?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, they heard them hooting.
They heard them hooting. So, confirming they have been around tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So your mom Desiree and her sister Aunt Jana, for those who don't know who we're talking about.
My grandma Nindy and. Jana.
I'm sorry. Your mom
Yeah.
Nindy. Yeah. Desiree your mom was reporting this. So they live next door, and so naturally they can hear and see what we see, so they happen to hear them in the area. So obviously after this show, we'll go back to the live stream. We are working on a way that we can kind of monitor the live stream in real time in future episodes. We just didn't have time to get to that tonight. But so back to what I was saying. So last season or eggs 5.3 and 5.4 were laid January 11th, January 13th. Those are the ones that froze. She abandoned again because of the storm. Nearly a month after the first eggs were laid, the ones that really counted are the ones that were laid. So February 1st and February 4th are when E5.5 and E5.6, who became Primo and Segundo.
Oh, yeah.
About 30-something days after that. So all this to say, I'm kind of taking a long way to explain it, but there are a lot of people who either maybe they're new to the stream, or they don't have a full context of how things have happened in the past. Yeah. This is actually quite normal as far as Altera is concerned.
Yes.
It's sad to see eggs freeze, rupture.
Obviously.
But it is nature. Explain our approach and our policy. Why are those eggs still there?
Those eggs are still there because obviously how we have seen that, first of all, it is illegal to have any
contact?
Yes, any contact with their eggs and their feathers, them. So, great horned owls are a protected species, so we cannot, by law, we are not allowed to mess with their eggs, them, or any of their stuff. And also, as we've seen, they know what they're doing. The great horned owls have been around for a long time, as we've seen in past seasons. Abandoned eggs are removed from the nest by the female owl, and not
predators,
or predators in other
happen,
cases. Yeah. So we are not allowed to. We cannot remove those eggs. We let their owls do what they know need to happen.
And that's really been our policy from the get-go. This started off as an educational endeavor for your sake, and we just happened to invite people along to watch it through the early days. And as it's amassed, viewership, we've really just sort of helped perpetuate that. We've promoted it. We've enjoyed the opportunities it's provided you by learning how to be a spokeswoman, how to do fundraising.
Yes.
You've gotten some public speaking opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
But this is not it's not primarily an entertainment effort. It's entertaining. I think we can all agree that they're entertaining moments, but really this is about learning. It's about honoring nature. It's about being a good steward of the opportunity.
Yes.
So that's kind of really where we're coming from the standpoint of how we manage this. So we have, if you've been watching lately, I've got a kind of a 3-shot view, an overhead view that shows the entire ledge, which includes 3 pots, Lazarus, the yucca in the middle, the abandoned eggs on the right, and there's a pot on the left. Now, so what's also of interest is that where the eggs were laid this year, just like last year, are in a different pot than what is historically the nest site, right?
Yes.
So remember where the first eggs were laid last year?
Was it on the
north side, which is the first time we've ever seen eggs laid on the north side. It was an entirely different ledge. She tried it twice, didn't like it, came back to the original pot.
Well, yes, first time with Altera, but didn't like the first year of Mrs. Tiger?
Way back before we even knew about it,
Yeah.
So we've never had really one of these other pots a successful nest site on these ledges. There's been the first year, which was on the Juliet balcony, but they always tend to come back to this one pot, right? Well, that happens to be the pot you'll see on the left of the overhead view. So the thinking here is that maybe she's, determined that maybe she knew all along that those eggs weren't viable. Who knows? Maybe it was immaturity. Who knows? We'll never know. I don't think we'll get the opportunity to ask her. You look great. Quit worrying about your hair.
It's sticking up right there.
So the theory is that they will likely make the move to the north pot, which is great because all the equipment's already there. I've made some adjustments to help kind of capture that, and we can monitor that. But we're also keeping the other eggs in view so that if and when they are disposed of, we get to see how it happens.
Yeah.
I thought we might have a moment. Steve, I don't know if you were watching this. You tend to watch it in the morning, and it was sometime mid-morning. There were some blue jays that hit the ledge, and they were right in frame, and they were looking straight down at those eggs, like, what do we have here?
Oh yeah.
And they're that kind of signature sound that blue jays make. So it made me wonder if we might not have a very interesting scenario unfold that we get to watch. Again, unfortunate, but nature running its course. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, we all hope, of course, that she lays eggs in that north pot.
Yeah. It's the right pot.
Yeah. So let's take another question.
Yep. Okay.
There's one from Mountain Serenity. What is that? You read that and answer it.
Earlier when it was stated that when Mrs. was a young owl that she also abandoned her first clutch. Could you talk about that? Yes. So Mrs. Tiger, when this was before the whole actual live camera started, we moved back into our house now because we lived there, moved away, moved back in. When we moved back in, there were 2 eggs in the north planter box.
But this was in July, so they had been there for a while.
They'd been there for a long time, and they smelled bad. Yeah, so those are obviously, not viable at all, and she had abandoned them, but that was Mrs. Tiger, and so obviously then she was a young owl. She was immature, just like Altera is now. And so, so that's obviously it's not just a Altera thing. Like, the young female owls aren't mature. It's
a learning process.
Yeah, they're learning.
Yeah. So we didn't have a whole lot more experience other than just discovering the eggs, and then Alessondra's insistent that she was being visited by owls the next fall. So
yeah.
All right, so let's look for another question here. Looks like Desiree's answering Mountain a little further.
Oh, I know her.
Somebody asked you have names in mind for the season.
Always the question early in the season.
Yeah.
And always the question that we brush aside and not answer directly.
Yeah, I'm not, y'all are going to try to make me say what they are. I'm not going to tell you. So, you tried.
The truth is we often wait to see what the circumstances are. Sometimes there's a great story that leads us, or some of the circumstances often lead us to a good name. So you've always done a great job of it. It's always been a highly anticipated part of the season when people, when you get to announce the names, which we've started last year. We did on this show, so we'd say stay tuned, right?
Yeah.
Lil Hoot has a question there.
Yep. Oh, hi, Lil Hoot.
So go ahead and read it.
Yeah. If Altera does not come back to your balcony, If Altera does come back to your balcony and lay brood more eggs, are you going with the Latin theme like last year on tiger-related names? I'm not saying.
I like it. All right. Enough said.
Also, I would like to give a few shout-outs. One to my sister, Giovanna. I love you, girl. And then another to my group of friends, because I said I'd give him a shout-out. And also, Snowman Studios on YouTube. Go follow him. He's my friend Ethan. Okay.
A little plug there, huh?
Yep.
All right.
Snowman Studios.
So Patty Cake 54 wants to know, can Altera go to lay her eggs somewhere else?
Well, okay, so as for what we know around us, there really isn't other houses. It just went black.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay. There really isn't other houses that have planter boxes like ours do. Like, we've just looked at the houses around us and they don't.
I think the answer is yes. I mean, we obviously
She
don't
could.
control her. She's not our pet. They're not our owls.
No, we do not own them. Have any.
So yeah, she's free to do that.
But
but there's clearly something going on about our house, whether it's the color, the material, the texture. It occurred to me on that overhead view, if and when Altera does come back and sit on the nest, or even if one of them appear at night, I think there's a great clip I have of Mr. Tiger coming and kind of prepping that. And honestly, I had to look twice to make sure he was still there because he blended in so well with the dirt when the view was downward. I think that has a lot to do with perhaps why they choose our site, our house as a nest, because they're so well camouflaged. Really, predatorily, only another bird could get to them, because there's no way a cat could get to one of those.
oh, of course not. No.
There's no way a cat could scale that wall. I mean, it's 18 feet above
Yeah.
the parking drive, and really the only predator that could get to them might be Xavier.
I don't even know how that would happen. But
if he could get the window open.
Knowing him, I mean, it's.
We kid. We keep the doors to that room closed.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah.
I saw, if we done with that
Yeah,
question.
go for it.
Hold on, I just went blank. I'm sorry, I'm reading chat right now. Yes, so someone asked if I had a favorite owlet, and it's Caspian. And because this one time he was on the rail, he was railing, and then he fell asleep and fell back into the nest, and that was really cute. So I love that. Oh yeah, they're talking about Wanda now. Wanda's so sweet. She's Kevin Durant's mom. Voice crack.
We'll let them talk about that in chat.
Yeah.
So,
the puppy sounds. Yeah. Coyotes.
Okay, so
we have coyotes.
So as I mentioned earlier, the microphone, or at least the ledge, is 18 feet above the parking drive, and then about 8 feet above that is where the microphones. I have 2 microphones this year. Previously, it was just a single microphone that was down low. I've changed to a different system this year to get a little bit better perspective on the sound. So we have a shotgun mic, which is designed to aim at a very small space, and you can really dial in where you're getting the sound from. The idea there is that as we get into hatch watch, we might be able to hear the baby owls before they hatch.
Oh yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Yeah,
that's
so
yeah.
And then I have a stereo mic. It's a Audio-Technica brand stereo mic. I used that kind of mic way back in the day in my audio engineer days. That's mounted up high. That's a broader pattern that it sort of listens to. And so being that high, we're at the top of a hill. I think it's probably the highest point in the neighborhood, and we're surrounded on the south by a large commercial parcel that's undeveloped. To the north is golf course, driving range. To the west is a series of golf holes. So, and we've seen coyotes in the area. So it's when you're that high up on a crisp, clear night, hearing them is not out of the question. I know I've heard them even without the microphones before. So there's the answer to that.
Yes. I've seen a question asked, I think 2 or 3 times, how did the owls start coming to your nest, to nest at your planter? I mean, they're completely wild owls. Like we said, just one night, they were probably just rolling through town, and they were like, hey, and saw our planters and so they decided to make their nest there. But we didn't, because they're completely wild. They aren't, like Dad said, they aren't our pets. So they just decided, the wild animals. Is someone named Jigglypuff? Because that's amazing.
Yeah, there's a name.
Bro, that's the best Pokemon ever.
Yeah.
No joke.
So,
So shout out to Jigglypuff.
it is quite the happenstance that a family of owls picks a little girl who's imaginative and willing to really embrace them.
Yes.
They pick a house that has, a ledge that provides them the kind of shelter apparently they feel comfortable in to nest in. And there's a guy that lives there who knows a thing or two about, how to let his daughter watch it. And it just sort of snowballs from there.
Yeah.
Some would say that's lucky. Some would, and I would agree. That's a very fortunate thing that's happened. That's, to me, providential. We've had so many good stories come out of this that we've seen, God at work in so many ways.
Of course.
Do you have a favorite story that you've heard of maybe someone we've never met, but at least kind of got to you somehow that was impacted by this?
Like a person that was?
Yeah.
I don't really have a specific one right now because there are so many. It's just hard. But I've heard a few stories about how someone's family member has been in the hospital.
With a terminal illness.
Yeah, just a really bad illness, and how they found the OKCOwlCam and just watching them just gave them a lot more happiness with that.
Yeah.
And so I just hearing those stories is just really really inspiring to me because I just it's just really sweet hearing about that.
We have hundreds of emails.
Yeah.
I would say over the years of people with stories similar to that, or just who want to tell us how it impacted them. And of course, that doesn't even get into the number of classrooms that watch this on a daily basis in the classrooms. We've heard from countless teachers. Some of them submit questions, and hopefully some of them join us in chat. Have you seen any other questions we might want to hit?
I've been looking.
Yeah, I've been watching.
What was it like to hold Principia before putting them?
Oh, it was really cool because it was I'm holding a freaking owl. Holding Principia was That
was special for me to get to see you do that.
Yeah, but holding because I had gloves on. I was like, please don't hurt me. But it was sweet because I got to pet it, and I'm like, you're a little baby owl.
Yeah.
And then just looking at it and knowing.
In your younger years, you begged us to let you do that, and of course the answer was always what?
No,
right?
Because not allowed to, but only in that specific time because we were putting it into the nest. Could we actually touch them? But
touch it.
Yes, that's what I meant. But thank you. They like my jacket, or she likes my jacket. But yeah, so it's just looking at this sweet little owlet and knowing it's gonna grow up into this creature that could destroy your face.
Yeah, fierce. There's a question I want to try to relocate. Okay, Kelly Langley wants to know if we had to guess, when would we expect to have the next eggs? So I would say that consistent with last year, it could be any time. Last year it was a week between the initial lay, the second lay. We know that that those who are familiar with the various vocalizations of owls have been watching and have indeed confirmed that mating is still happening based on what they hear. I know that sounds odd, but that's the reality, and we have several knowledgeable people who are a part of this who have confirmed that. So that would give us all indication that she's going to lay eggs again soon. So that's my answer to that. I mean, if I had to predict, I would say any time. But then again, it was, last year it was a month between the first set of eggs and the third set of eggs. So just because she lays another egg doesn't mean that that's going to be the magic one,
Yeah.
So.
There is a... Yes, okay, so there's a cool question here. Have the owls ever dive-bombed people or animals that get too close to the nest in the way other smaller birds do? Okay, so the owls have never dive-bombed any animals, but do you remember the net that you put on it? You were putting... So, can I tell that? Or do you want to tell that? So, I forgot what season it was. Was it season... I want to say it was
season 3.
Yeah, season 3. So, we had that... this kind of netting to put on the rail just to make sure the owlets wouldn't fall out of the nest when they were small enough to get through the railing. And so as Dad was putting it on there, that was during a season, and like it was a Mrs. Tiger, right? Mrs. Tiger like swooped down and got super close to you, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So she was just dive bombing to be protective. She didn't make contact with me, but she was definitely making her presence known. Yes. I had a spotter down below who was just kind of giving me the heads up to watch out for. That's really the only time we've done anything actively to potentially affect them. It was an act of protection, because so many people were like, man, those outlets are going to fall out between the essentially the rungs, if you will, of the ledge. And that's not easy. That's not difficult to conclude that. But here's what people have to remember when we get to that point this season: the outlets take a long time. Steve, do they not? To get out of the darn pot.
Yes.
It's ridiculous how long those things stay in that pot, because for whatever reason they don't have the confidence or realize that they can get out. By the time they get out of the pot, they're too big to really get through those bars.
Yeah, they're really
at least easily.
Yeah.
Right? So we learned the hard way, and maybe we can get to the rest of that story some other episode. But what we thought was going to be something to protect them ended up being something that endangered one of them. And that's when I swore I would never do anything like that again, even though we felt good about it at first, even though people were begging us, and even though still today we field questions from people of why don't we do more, or what would we do to help prevent them from falling out. Yeah. We got to remember, these guys are, I mean, they've been around for probably millions of years. Yeah. They're usually on a branch, right? There's not any safety protocols in place for their protection up in a tree. So, again, we just take that approach with that one exception of just stand back and observe. Yeah. So, Mersey Dotes, I like to upgrade her name and call her Mersey Dotes, like she's, some sort of mythological character. She wanted to know, what did she want to know? I had it on the tip of my tongue, and right as I got off talking about her name, I forgot what she asked me. Merzidotes. Repeat your question. It's back up there. It was a good question, and I wanted to come back to it, but it was a couple minutes ago.
I did see a question about, have you ever seen any of the outlets from last year after they pledged?
Go for it.
Okay, so one time, or a few times, like 2 or 3.
I see it.
Sorry. So, yes, since we have seen during a season, I want to say this was 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, so season 4, we've just been casually just watching the OKCOwlCam, Mrs. Tiger sitting on the eggs or whatever, and then we hear another owl hoot, and obviously once you've watched for a while, you learn to recognize Mr. Tiger and Mrs. Tiger, Altera's hooting patterns, and then we heard another owl, and right when we heard them, obviously Mr. Tiger or Mrs. Tiger heard them, and you see her just like she was just on guard. She leaves, and so obviously we were kind of thinking like, okay, so Mr. Tiger and Mrs. Tiger just went to scare that owl off, and because they're so obviously that's their territory. They're territorial. They're like, if any other owl, even if it is one of their kids, once that kid leaves, their like parental protection, they're considered an enemy pretty much if they go in their territory. So yes, a few times we have heard what we assume to be one of their past outlets.
Right. So the question that Mersey Dotes asked, do we keep track of or record of all the countries that are watching the cam?
Oh yeah.
So while we're on YouTube, we do have a website which is going to have far more information than what YouTube does. And you can also watch the live stream through the website, and that's OKCOwlCam.com. If you go to that homepage and scroll down to the bottom, there's a great map that it started off as a map of the world, but now it's a map of the red dot of more red dots than Earth or than land, if you will. You can see pretty much the locations of everywhere that has been viewed. And to me, I hadn't looked at that actually for maybe a year and a half or 2 years until I saw the new redesign of the OKCOwlCam page, and I scrolled down and I was like, oh my gosh, it took my breath away at how much of the world has watched this thing.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Steve, have you seen any other questions?
One here, have any institutes approached about possibly tagging the outlets for study?
That's been brought up several times, and I would say no institutes have, but we've inquired about what would constitute a good reason to do that. I mean, yeah, it would be fun. I mean, as a tech guy, I would love to track and find out where do the babies go.
Yeah, that would be.
But really, our understanding is that number one, it takes licensing to do that. So and that's not really something that we have the time or the desire to go try to chase. We have some great local and abroad consultants that work with us on decision making, on understanding what's going on behind the scenes with these owls. One of who is local, and the discussion last we had with her was that is it possible? Sure, but usually you can't get authorization or licensing to do it unless there is a very specific study being commissioned, or unless there is a justifiable circumstance other than just simple curiosity to do it. So even then, I think that technologically it's still not quite there yet to really do extensive tracking. I mean, if we could put a tiny baby bracelet, on the talons of these, that would give us maybe 90 days of tracking, GPS wise, that'd be awesome. That's just not how it really works. From what I understand, those who do the tracking have to actually surveil the birds and be within a certain locale of them with certain radio equipment to really even register the tracking devices that are small enough to do that. So that'd be a great question for Carla or Brenda in a future episode. So, hey, let's talk about future episodes. I mean, where are we going to take this year? And I'd love to hear from the viewers, what they would like to see. We've got about 15 more minutes before we wrap up.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some ideas for the Who and A show for season 6. What would you like to see happen? I'm putting you on the spot. We haven't even talked about this.
Yeah, no, we haven't. I don't know.
So we have, because of the studio, we have the ability to bring in some guests, whether it's physically or technologically through Skype.
You talk.
So we have some great software provided to us from a company. They put out what's called Mimo Live, MIMO LIVE.
Sponsor.
And they provide us the software both for the OKCOwlCam stream and for the studio here. And one of the features they have is one of the many features they have is the ability for us to bring in a Skype call or multiple Skype calls, so that we could have kind of a virtual guest.
Yeah.
So I could see some great possibilities. I mean, I can think of 3 to 5 really good guests right now that I know would do it in a heartbeat if we asked them. I would love to, if she's willing, and I don't want to put her on the spot if she's out there watching, but I would love for Rondi to come join us in studio and talk, get some great perspective on the Principio adoption from last year. Maybe talk about habitats of owls here in Oklahoma. Tons of questions come to mind for that. Have any good suggestions come through the chat here?
I've seen them talking about the painting back behind you.
Okay. Someone asked, will this video be posted? Yes, it will. It's being recorded. It will be available both on YouTube on the channel, as well as we'll post it as well to Facebook from there. So you'll be able to watch it or share it, and know that if you can't join us every week, or if you miss an episode for whatever reason, we'll so long as no technical glitches occur, we'll make sure that we post them for later viewing. So.
Any other questions? Because, answer.
I think we'll discuss how we can, put together a fundraiser. That's always been a component that we've encouraged you to pursue as part of being a good steward of the opportunity.
That's a good question.
We'll do some sort of a fundraiser to benefit an organization or more than one, and we can talk about the opportunity of auctioning this off, about different ways people can support certain good causes that are dear to your heart. You said you saw a good question.
Yeah, what was it like to hand feed Principio? You might want to ask my mom about that one. That was a fun experience. Whoo!
Tell them. I mean, it's reality.
Okay, so we got like a few of these gigantic white rats. They were, no joke, they were like that big, okay? They were huge. And so I mean, they were rats. Like, owls eat rats. So what did my mom have to do?
Explain what your mom's background is.
Oh, yeah. So my mom's a PA. She's like, she worked in, like, wound care and all of that. So she knew how to, like, do doctor stuff. I can't really explain her job very well because that's all I know.
That's actually a great explanation.
It's a great explanation.
But she's not unused to working in that kind of environment.
Yeah, except it's never, like, with animals. So, like,
yeah.
So when we had to feed Principio, or when my mom had to feed Principio, we got to cut those rats open and feed the Principio, the rat.
I think everybody can probably fill in the gaps mentally there, but
it was...
I think I've got some video of it.
Oh.
But I don't have it at my fingertips, so we'll skip past that.
No, yeah, I know. Des is not.
Steve's got one for you.
Oh.
Tammy Parks asks, how has this experience impacted the immediate community in a positive way?
As in, like...
Well, let's start very close to home, and we can work our way up.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask us, what do the neighbors think of this whole thing?
Oh.
And I would say, honestly, some neighbors don't know a thing about it, or they've never said anything about it. Some are kind of indifferent to it. Others, like Nindy and Papa next door, absolutely are totally involved in it and really enjoy it. We have other neighbors who ask about it, or like if we're at the neighborhood pool or something in the summer, people will often bring it up then, just because they know it's something that goes on in the neighborhood and they watch it, or their kids watch it.
Yeah.
We've had several news stories done over the years. And in fact, like Allie, who's done, Steve, she's probably covered it the last 4 years, maybe, would you say? Yeah, so I mean, maybe a half dozen stories in all. Those stories have gone on to be picked up by, Steve, help me out here, CNN and some of the bigger.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so.
Hi, Ethan. Sorry, I saw Ethan. I was like, oh my gosh, he's watching.
Yeah.
What's Gucci, fam?
So, it's been great because you've also gotten to go to some local classrooms here who followed it, and then you've done videos for some classrooms that we couldn't quite get to, just that were out of state or around the country. So it's been fun to see the impact and how far it's reached and how it affects different people in different ways.
Yeah, I saw a question that was, are the mods local? We have mods from all over. Like, some of our mods are here, like in Oklahoma, and some of them we had
international.
We have like Australia and all over.
Yeah, so moderators, help us out with kind of introducing yourself in there, or if you're comfortable doing so, where you're from.
Yeah. Ethan, dank memes.
Do we have friends that want to come and see the planner? I'm surprised we don't have more requests than what we do, but yes.
Yeah. Like in past seasons, some of my mom's friends have come over and they've looked at the owls and the nest.
Generally speaking, we try to really discourage it, but when it all really depends on the time of season. I mean, because really once it warms up and the owlets are a little older, Altera's not there anyway. She starts to leave for increased periods of time during the day, and looking out the window, those owlets half the time don't even realize it's happening,
Yeah.
So Laurel wants to know, what do you want to be when you grow up, Alessondra?
I don't know. I mean, I've had some ideas over the years. Like, I've had some wild ones. Like, me and my cousin were planning on having a animal shelter connected to a pet shop, and we were going to live in a mansion together, and we were both going to have a horse, but we were 8 back then, so...
So realism is set in a little more.
Yeah, I don't honestly, I mean, I don't know.
Question I've seen a couple times, have any of the outlets ever been attacked or anything come close to the nest predator-wise?
Oh, yeah. So this one time, I want to say it was the season that was at Nindy and Papa's, so my grandparents who live right next door, I forgot what, it wasn't, we didn't count it as a season.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, okay, where we had a bunch of, I think they were were they starlings? Yeah. There were like at least maybe 10 starlings that like coaxed Mrs. Tiger away from the nest we had.
Did you say coaxed? I'm so proud of you. That's a great word.
Oh, I thought I used it wrong when
no,
you said.
No, you did. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they pretty much drew her away from the nest, and some of them were dive bombing the nest, and they pretty much drove her to a roof across the street, and they were like guarding her. Like she tried to leave, and they were like, no. And unfortunately, as they dive bombed the nest, they ended up cracking one of the eggs, making them non-viable or not viable. But that was really scary because I was over there at Mindy's house at that time, and we were watching it. And she, Mrs. Tiger kept trying to fly over to the nest to obviously protect her eggs, and they wouldn't let her. And so that was really scary to me.
I saw a question, and it's actually a good question. Lisa Shona 991 asked earlier, do we ever get impacted by the smell of the pantry, and do our neighbors complain about it?
No, it's...
Surprisingly, we don't really ever smell it.
We don't.
It's up so high that we wouldn't smell it from below. But at the same time, really the food doesn't, with some exceptions, the food doesn't stay there a long time.
No, they eat
it. And for part of the season, it's frozen anyway, or at least very cold. So there's not really that kind of condition that I think would be, really creating that smell. So
yeah.
Good question, though. I mean, I could see where people would wonder that.
Let's see here.
Claudia says you have plenty of time to figure out your calling. Yes. I would agree.
Hey, what's up, Jackson? He's on
Cool.
Cody Summers. How many legs do they lay? How many eggs? Okay, so question from Jackson. Okay, so they can lay 1 to 4 eggs at a time. It actually all depends on how much the amount of prey in that area. So it all just depends on how much the amount of food around there at that time. We've had seasons that have 3 owlets, and some seasons were 2, but we've only ever had them lay 2 or 3 eggs. So they can lay up to 4 eggs at a time. Yeah, hi.
If some of the pantry items fall from the planter ledge, do we pick it up, or do the owls get it?
No.
It really never happens. I mean, there have been a few exceptions.
Yeah, you're trimming the bushes, and you're like, oh, that's a nice surprise.
Yeah. It very seldom do we ever really come across that. I mean, they generally dispose. And another great thing is that Altera, we found, is a pretty organized. She's very organized and tidy. And even on occasion, Mrs. Tiger would carry off something that was no longer good, right? I mean, we've seen her carry off old prey, and it just disappeared. So all right, we got a couple more minutes left, and then we'll wrap this up. But any other questions?
Yeah, I saw a question. I saw a question. It was about the room that they're in. Yeah, so the room that the planners are in is our theater room that we never use anyway. But during the season, we do keep it closed unless Dad is in the control room, which is kind of off of that room, doing some stuff for the camera. Yeah.
So I think that's a great point to kind of wrap up here. I mean, some good questions to start the season off. Here on YouTube, we're obviously starting from scratch this season, but we're trying to build the following. So would love to encourage you guys to share it. One thing I did want to address on the tech side of things. So you may notice if you're a subscriber and if you get notifications about the feed that 2, maybe 3 times per day, you get a notice that the feed has gone live. That's not trying to be annoying. That's because YouTube handles the live stream a little bit differently from how YouTube did. Ustream used to automatically just take 3-hour segments of the live stream and then save that as a file. YouTube doesn't do that automatically. So if I ever want to be able to go back and find a high point of a video, it's got to be archived by YouTube. But YouTube only carries the last 4 hours of any given live stream. So what I try to do is before we go into evening time, which is usually when all the action happens, I try to start a new video at that point, which means I take the stream down, kind of come up with a new description of what's happening, new title for that particular stream, and then take it back. So that's not really trying to perpetuate any higher following or anything. It's just the nature of the technical side of things. So also tech support. We get a lot of questions asked of the moderators. who are superbly helpful people when they have time, but sometimes chat is just so fast and so busy that providing tech support isn't always feasible or possible. We encourage you to check out the YouTube forums to ask your questions there, because I know they're generally helpful.
Yes. Okay, so
what are you dying to say over there?
I'm just reading the chat. 1, peace out, Ethan. 2, so my friend just asked me to, Roxy, my friend, did just ask me to dab, so I did it just because. I'm sorry, I'm just reading all this. Okay.
Well, we'll wrap it up, guys. We thank you for joining us. Alessondra, how do you want to wrap this up? Same time, next place. Yep. Same time, same place next week.
So thank you all for watching. Thank you all. Thank you to my friends from school who are also watching. And thank you for Steve. Thank you for Steve for all the tech stuff, because he's been doing like the thing that came down that says I'm the OKCowlCam host.
He's the technical director.
The technical director.
And I would give him I would say co-producer as well of the show. So.
Right there. Yeah. That's my name.
All right, so let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll archive this. We'll post it. Make it so that anybody can watch it afterwards. Moderators, thank you for hosting a great chat. So we're broadcasting from the studio. As soon as we cut that, then we'll reactivate the stream from the house, which will take you right back to the nest. So God bless you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Alessondra out.